Welcome to One Way to Machines and the 8th Gen Honda Civic series. In this video, we will review further techniques that can be used to seat the wheel stud and why you may want to choose these or not. In the case that you have an impact gun, that's going to be the easiest route to solve this, but a lot of people don't have that tool. So I took that wheel stud out multiple times and tried different methods, so that if one thing doesn't work for you or you don't have enough strength for one of them, you can try the other ones. So this is the brand new stock lug nut that I got from the dealership. After using this on the wheel stud, it actually was able to fully seat without bottoming out because of the cap. The only downside to this is, with the amount of force that you put on this to seat the wheel stud, it starts to wear this thin surface unevenly. And this can result in variable pressure when you put the wheel back on with the hubcap, which is why I recommend you don't do this, but you can do it if you have the longer one. This will be apparent when I show you the rear wheel on the black Civic, and whether this was from the factory or this happened along its life, it has similar looking lug nuts that are shorter, which is why people in the past have said that you cannot use these to seat the wheel studs, but the stock ones that I got from the dealership worked. Now, if you do use this, even though, like I said, if you have this longer one, you don't need the spacer, it's still better to use the spacer because it disperses the force a little bit and doesn't dig into the brake disc when you go to seat it. We are looking at the rear wheel of the Honda Civic. These three are the same height as the one I was given to by the dealer. These two are much shorter. So in previous videos where I mentioned these would bottom out, or other people have said that you can't do it, it's possible that these two short ones were on and these don't allow you to bottom out when you're seating the wheel stud. But they do hold in the wheel with the hubcap just fine on this car. Here's a closer up view so that you can see the difference in height. To make it easier for some of you that are struggling, the caliper will be off obviously when you're doing the job. I've reinstalled it at this point. That access hole, when you grab the brake disc, if you find that it's slipping and you're not able to use the breaker bar and counteract that, the disc is still spinning in your hand, what you want to do at that point is continue to hold it and kneel down in front in a way where your forearm rests on your thigh, and then your entire body counteracts the motion of that brake disc trying to go, and then with your other hand, you're going to tighten that lug down until you seat the stud. Here we have a flathead screwdriver that was inserted into the brake disc in one of the techniques I used, and it bends severely back and forth if you try to use the brake disc to hold it and use the breaker bar with the other hand to tighten it. So this screwdriver bent this way and then this way, and you can't put anything thicker than this inside of the fins of the brake disc. This is also not a good idea because if you have old brake discs, you could possibly break the fins, or you could cause enough chipping or damage or warping to the point where it has the effect of, say, a wheel weight that has fallen off, and you may get vibrations in the front end. So this is something you want to stay away from, but it can work. The reason I want to show you guys this one and why I did this is, if I had the automatic car in here and I did it, it would most likely stop the rotation of the disc when the car is in park. This car is standard, but whether I put it in first or reverse, the disc continues to rotate both ways. So what somebody might do is to put a flat screwdriver in here and then try to crank down the bolt. This does work, but it bends this screwdriver so much and it's not safe on old discs. If you decide to put the car in gear in order to seat the wheel stud, make sure only one wheel is off the ground and the other one is on the ground. The car is in first gear right now, and you can see how this would help you. In the case that both wheels are off the ground, the differential will have no resistance and both wheels will continuously spin even if the car is in gear. If none of the methods work for you and you don't want to shell out the money for an impact, you can use the 4-pound hammer and carriage bolt method. The next video clips are going to be this method in detail. These 3.5-inch carriage bolts are too small for the job, and you will most likely hurt your fingers, so you do not want to use these. What you do want is a 5-inch carriage bolt. Any longer than this and you're most likely going to have trouble swinging your dead blow hammer onto it, so 5 inches works very well. The reason you want the rounded edge, it needs to be a carriage bolt, will become evident when we do the job, because when you use it, it goes in on an angle and you have the highest chance of applying good force into the wheel stud to push it into place with the rounded edge. So try your best to avoid the normal hex bolt. Use a carriage bolt, 5 inches. This works very well. So working lying down like this underneath the car, you do have good sight line with your headlight. You can't see here. But also as you're working, see, this is the end of the carriage bolt. Yours might be a little bit lighter, but you got to give a significant amount of force in order to get it in. So don't be afraid to hit it with the hammer hard, as long as you're in control, being careful of the CV boot here, and also of your fingers getting caught in the middle here. You're going to take your carriage bolt at this point. It's going to come in here on an angle, and it's going to go onto the back of the wheel stud here. You don't want to get it too straight close to the CV boot here, okay, because you're going to escape the CV boot when you go to punch it in. You have limited space in the wheel well. You're going to grab your 4-pound hammer and you're going to start tapping on the back of this carriage bolt. Once you've got it in, you want to just gently roll the brake disc back and forth while holding your small flashlight inside there, and you're going to verify that it is fully seated down. The best thing to do is to roll it all the way to one of the older studs and then roll it back to see if there's any gap. Here we have a fully seated bolt. This is a very old carriage bolt, and as you can see, mine bent just slightly out of shape by the time I finished this one. In the rare case that this were to happen to you, make sure to switch your carriage bolt, because the force that you're going to be swinging on an angle with it, it's not a good idea to have any amount of a curve on your bolt, because already the rounded edge of the bolt is something that you have to control with your skills that you have. You don't want another factor of an actual bent bolt coming into play, so make sure to get a straight one if this ends up happening to you, but it most likely won't.